The moment Evelyn Hart stepped into the courtroom, everything went silent, not out of respect, but out of judgment. Her worn-out shoes, faded coat, and tired eyes made her look like someone who had already lost long before the verdict. The whispers spread across the wooden benches like wildfire, mocking her, tearing into her dignity, and assuming her story before she even had a chance to breathe. People eyed her as if she were a burden, a failure, a woman who deserved the misery life had thrown at her. But they had no idea that the same woman they were ridiculing would soon shake the entire courtroom, and their own beliefs, when the truth burst open like a storm. And before the story begins, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that no one should be judged by appearances, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Evelyn had lived most of her life fighting battles no one ever knew about. She had married Daniel Morton, a confident and charming man who initially promised her stability and dreams of a peaceful future. But those promises crumbled quickly, as Daniel's love turned into indifference and his support faded into resentment. When their marriage collapsed, he blamed her for everything, calling her a burden, a failure, someone who couldn't bring anything meaningful into his life. When the divorce proceedings began, Daniel's true colors darkened even more. He hired expensive attorneys, painted himself as the wrong party, and made sure the courtroom saw Evelyn as a woman desperate for sympathy rather than justice. Evelyn sat quietly in the courtroom each day, clutching her worn-out notebook filled with job applications, bills, and scribbled reminders of responsibilities she never ran from. She had been living in a small, dimly lit rented room since the separation, doing multiple jobs to survive. Every night she returned home exhausted, but she still found the strength to remind herself that life wasn't done yet, that the storm had to end eventually. The only thing that kept her steady was her belief that the truth, no matter how delayed, always found its way. Daniel, meanwhile, basked in arrogance. He walked into court in tailored suits, flaunting a new girlfriend every few weeks, as if the divorce was an opportunity to prove how desirable and successful he was. He mocked Evelyn openly, whispering cutting remarks loud enough for the courtroom to hear. His lawyers portrayed her as someone unworthy of alimony, claiming she contributed nothing, emotionally, financially, or socially. Each insult hit her like a hammer, yet she remained still, because she knew something no one else did. Something that would soon shift the entire foundation of this courtroom. On the third week of the hearings, the judge finally asked Evelyn to present her financial disclosures. Daniel smirked, leaning back as if ready to enjoy the spectacle of her embarrassment. The gallery prepared to witness her humiliation, expecting her to reveal nothing but debt and struggle. Even the attorneys exchanged looks of pity mixed with concealed amusement. But Evelyn stood up slowly, breathing deeply as if readying herself not for a battle but for a revelation. She handed a sealed envelope to the bailiff, who delivered it to the judge. The judge opened the documents, her expression shifting from boredom to disbelief, and then to a stunned, almost shaken stillness. The courtroom leaned forward confused, waiting. What the judge saw was not poverty. It was power. It was wealth. It was legacy. The document revealed that Evelyn Hart was the sole heiress of Lionel Hart, a reclusive billionaire, known worldwide but rarely seen. He was a man who had built empires in silence, donated secretly to global charities, and lived his final years in isolation. He had passed away 3 months earlier, leaving behind a vast inheritance estimated at over $2 billion. No one knew he had a daughter. No one knew Evelyn was not just his blood, but his chosen successor. Gasps spread across the courtroom like shockwaves. Daniel's smirk evaporated, replaced by a frozen look of horror, as if the ground beneath him had disappeared. The attorneys beside him sat speechless, completely shattered by the revelation. The same people who mocked her minutes ago were now staring at her with awe, confusion, and fear. The whispers changed tone, turning from judgment to admiration, from mockery to apology hidden in silence. But Evelyn didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She didn't do any of the things revenge fantasies are made of. She simply stood there, composed, graceful, dignified, just as she had been even in her darkest days. She knew money didn't define worth, character did. And now, the world finally saw the character she had always kept intact. The judge cleared her throat and declared that the court had severely misjudged the situation. Evelyn was not a woman seeking charity. She was an heiress choosing humility. She didn't need alimony, didn't need support, and didn't need anything from Daniel. In fact, she quietly informed the court that she was requesting nothing at all, not a single penny, not a single asset, from the man who once belittled her. Daniel's reaction was a mix of panic and humiliation. He rushed toward her after the session, trying to apologize, trying to convince her that their relationship still had unresolved feelings, pretending he had always believed in her. But Evelyn simply walked past him, her silence louder than any rejection could ever be. She had found her worth long before the money arrived. She had rediscovered her strength in the loneliness he left her with. The days following the courtroom revelation became a turning point. Evelyn used her inheritance not for lavish lifestyles, but to rebuild herself and support those who faced the same silent struggles she once carried alone. She started foundations for single mothers, shelters for women escaping emotional and financial abuse, and programs for young people searching for their identity in a world that too often judged them by their lowest moments. Step by step, Evelyn's story became an anthem of resilience. She reminded people everywhere that broken things can become masterpieces, that storms can lead to sunrise, and that sometimes the world needs to misjudge you so you can learn who you truly are. And if this story touched your heart so far, if Evelyn's strength reminds you that your worth is far deeper than what others see, please don't forget to like the video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe for more stories that heal and inspire. Before the final moment of this story, I want you to comment something meaningful. Tell us what lesson Evelyn's journey taught you personally. As the sun set behind the new community center she funded, Evelyn stood quietly by the entrance, watching people walk in, some smiling, some crying, some holding on to the last threads of hope. She realized that despite everything she lost, life had gifted her something priceless: the ability to rise above humiliation with grace and use her strength to uplift others. She had become more than an heiress. She had become a healer, a symbol of resilience, and a reminder that no matter how heavy the world's judgment feels, your truth will always rise to the surface, just like hers did.